You look. This is why I do this stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any idea. I'd probably be this old crazy guy running around the streets, you know? Who knows? So now I'm an old crazy guy sitting around here. Stand. Either way. Old crazy guys, you know. Well, younger, well, you know what I'm saying. I'm saying.
It's good to come out here and get into some much needed yoga for my body.
Oh, it just treat yourself to letting these energies flow through you in the yogic forms, guys. If you haven't figured that out already, take the time to do it. Get into the kriyas and let yourself really, really experience the flow of this energy and start to put it into a dance movement, almost how you move through your life. You know, you find a way to, that just becomes an expanded kriya, so to speak, right? In a way of thinking about it.
I get kind of lazy. I've been traveling a lot, you know, in buses, and my buddy had an RV and a small truck from Pennsylvania. So you get in the habit of start slouching more and more and more. Yeah. So it's good to come up here and be able to stretch out my spine.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Just to remember, because of course traveling does that to you.
Also, the guru up in Sonoma, Harry Haram, he said that, you know, I was telling him my story about finding Kriya bliss, and, you know, very important to have my spine straight up. Well, of course, he said, well, you should be able to slouch down too and be able to find the same bliss, you know. You should be comfortable.
But you know what? I just say to him, I was saying, you're right, of course. You know, no one's going to argue with that. You should be able to, but why would you want to? Why would you want to represent a form of Shiva itself? Why would you want to turn into a banana slug? I like banana slugs, by the way.
It's okay, I guess it's comfortable. It's
kind of yellow, you know.
Relax a little bit sometimes.
No, you have to. No, I'm in no way saying that we shouldn't relax sometimes, but there's an overall form. Swarup, we sit with a straight spine.
Then you go to the Gurudwara and you see the lady at the all-night curtain where she's sitting up straight.
All night.
All night. And you're like, whoa, well, she can do that easy.
And that's the training here. You train yourself, and it's not a torture routine. It's just a way of training yourself to sit within yourself so you can have a stable point of self-examination. That's all that's going on here, guys, right? A stable point of self. I mean, that's it. How do you get there? How do you determine who you are in the midst of all the possible things you could be or want to be or maybe think it to be, right? How does it crystallize? How does it turn into an image? Well, by paying attention to it. That's the truth of it. Pay attention to yourself. Look at yourself carefully. See yourself as you are. And then move that image so it makes sense to yourself. So it has not only a word-oriented cultural way of looking at yourself, you know, all the conditioned mind, that is that way of looking at yourself, because that's the only way that the self becomes real, by putting itself in a relative form, right? There has to be an image that you're looking towards as an idea, right? So re-identify with that, whatever that is for you, whatever that image is for the person that's experiencing it. Well, it'll vary a little bit because of different images. But whatever that is, realign yourself with that. And realign yourself with that on a biological form. That means you set up with the genetic form of this, the DNA structure itself. You go that deep into the exploration of your own mind relationship with this. And then it starts to become somewhat real. You start to inhabit it, right? It feels like I can feel it in my cells. I can feel it moving through my body. And it's just my imagination doing that. But I can feel it as I can feel it as a sensual thing in my body. I can feel the energy flowing and the muscles responding to it as if I direct it, some kind of that airbender thing, but within my own body. You can move that energy around. You can envision it. And this is why the yogic form is so important, guys, because it works. It allows you to get to this state of consciousness that you can move the energies around in a practical way.
Sometimes like wind currents blowing on you, and sometimes like imagine like torus fields or something.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice and gentle, and sometimes it's like, get yourself going there, bud.
Sometimes you vision it too, and sometimes you can just let it flow, and it'll move on its own.
There you go. There you go. Yes, yes, and for me, I'm trying to put it into words. I know, which are always like 10 light years behind the thought. That kind of thing.
That's all we're doing and continue to do. Just redefine enlightened wisdom over and over, incarnation after incarnation, with new language. So we have this new evolved language, so we need this timeless wisdom.
Newspeak. It's called Newspeak. And that's what it is. It's just the idiom changes, the little points. These words now have huge, if you open up a dictionary, huge meanings behind them, but we all get it because we've been collectively, subconsciously, programmed to that. So those interesting manipulations, once you get aware of this, by the way, guys, you realize how this conditioned mind is being manipulated by the whole structure, the political, sociological structure here. You get a glimpse of that, and you can understand why conspiracy theories are abound, because it's pretty weird. So, but just be aware of your own self, right? Then none of that stuff's going to affect you, other than you're going to look at it and go, yikes. And then you'll try to find ways of changing it, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to find practical ways of communicating that idea of the heart center back to a rational state of consciousness. That's the other thing too. We're biological beings, right? And as guys, it's just we're okay in this time. As guys, we're testosterone, right? We have that particular secretion going on, and that has affected everything. And of course, with the feminine co-part here, it's the other side of that, it's the balance. It's important to know the glandular structure of this, the biochemical nature of this is out of proportion. And just to note that as a symbolic reference point of why everything's out of balance here, is that testosterone, that basically aggressive, archetypal, like that form of consciousness is rearing its head way too much. It should be defensive only. It should be set up as a real protocol, structured response to aggression, I would suggest, right? That's why the safeguards are there for this. Well, become conscious enough, that's all. Become aware of yourself to know that these weird subliminal programs are running all the way through the collective subconscious here of everyone. And bring yourself out of that hypnotic trance. That's what I see. Everybody's involved in this hypnotic trance, including myself at times, So I have to pull myself out of that and go, okay, whoa. Reset yourself. Reset everything. Reset it all the way back down to the base of the spine, all the way up, down. Reset the whole yogic form. Reset. And I do that quite a few times a day, by the way, just to get that back to a point of equilibrium.
Wake up from your animal nature of survival and fight. Wake up to your divine nature.
Yeah.
Forgiveness and compassion.
But it wasn't, and for me, it's like a respect of that too. It's not that we should have to say that wasn't an effective evolutionary technique to get us to this point, Yeah, brutal as it was somewhat effective, But we can change that now. We have it in ourselves. Because the problem is when you start to become God, you have all creativity and also destruction are part of that GOD, right? Generate, organize, and destroy equation. You're going to call on that, the gunas, You have to balance that really carefully. In other words, there should be a time frame in that destruction or dissolution. You should try to let that merge out through the lifetime of maybe stars, that kind of thing. I don't know how far entropic you can go on this, but in other words, we don't have to have undue pain and suffering.
You have to have that ultimate battle in yourself, the 10,000, 100 million animal nature instincts, mind thoughts that come of fighting and survival and controlling. You have to let the 12 yogic disciplines of compassion and humility and forgiveness. You have to let those warriors battle those 10,000 demons inside yourself.
See, that's one way of looking at that. That's the Mahabharata way of looking at it, where it's a seductive way of looking at things. I mean, it really is, because it's kind of, it works on so many levels, But then there's another way of maybe going a little beyond that and saying, okay, that's interesting. Do I need to go through that again? Do I need to replay this killing of my friends and relatives just because they're Trumpites or assholes? In other words, where do you draw the line there? Can we not do that again? Can we not go there? Can we have a more intelligent way of approaching this? A more compassionate way?
And then once you see the suffering in yourself, then the next Buddha teaching is you start to see those conditions in other people. You see the suffering, and then when you really, the enlightened Buddha, ultimate step is you're able to not only transform yourself, but you're able to see those sufferings and then figure out what's holding those people back and transform them without having to physical altercation, hopefully not with the sword,
Well, yeah, but sometimes, Well, that's what it comes down to, isn't it? If you're going to become the Buddha, or you're going to become God, or so, however you want to look at it.
Who knows who God will make you? He might make you the Waheguru Nanak, or he might make you the Buddha. So we have to be fearless and open to take.
But we're going for the top. We're going for the top here. We're not messing around with any little side people. We want the top of each religion. That, right?
Well, ultimately, are you going to be a warrior, or are you going to be a monk?
Yeah, there's really the two aspects that are available to you as a spiritual person.
But
you have to make that choice to some degree.
It was only a reflection of their surroundings, those two. So,
conditioned mind. We're all reflections of everything, right? What else could it be? This is what the time has conspired to give us the best solutions for our continued observation of the self, right? This is the best solution you and I have been able to come up with, from a time length, expansive point of what can survive the time. That's what you want to look at here. What's built to last? Remember the old Grateful Dead line? What's built to last? What is built to last in consciousness? The pyramids. Well, they did a pretty good job of building to last. What's built to last? Profound question, really. Words, I always enjoy words because I'm at the point now where they are ways of getting into my own biochemistry. They're like little hacks that I've established that I can, that works. Now remember, go to the serotonin, go to those balances, the dopamine, check all of that out in your own bio. And this is the keywords that gets me back to that, examining it from that kind of scientific, or at least that language point of view. Back to words here in a minute. So I go into this thing, okay, well, what is that? How does that feel? Because you know what it feels like if those balances are correct. And that's a hack back into a memory. Oh, yeah, okay. And that allows me to make it authentic, right? To make it valid that this is something that corresponds to an actual memory of that balance of those neurotransmitters. Just a way of allowing that to be verified. A verbal way, a cognitive way, you know? Just how my mind tries to follow these things and make sense of it. We're going to stop this now because we can.